I'm John McQuay with 8541 Tactical, and this is Mail Call Mondays, the show that answers your questions about precision rifles, optics, and equipment. No, this is not a body bag laying in front of me. This is my Eberlestock X3 low drag pack, and today just got done shooting our local tactical rifle match, so I figured it'd be a good idea before I unpack all this crap to show you guys what I take when I go shoot one of our local matches. You guys have asked about gear time and time again, what you need to shoot a match. Before we get started in this, I want to make sure you guys know you do not need all this stuff to go out and shoot a match. I don't want you guys getting in the thought process that you have to have all this expensive gear to go out and shoot a match and go out and have fun. It's just not needed. If you want to go out and you want to shoot a match, all you really need is a rifle with optics, some way to support that rifle, be it a bipod, a backpack, etc., and some ammunition. And just be prepared to learn. After that, all the gear can follow, and that's actually a good way to do it because then you can determine what gear supports your shooting style. Now, as I mentioned, this is an Eberlestock X3 low drag pack. You'll see right here I've got some Grimlock carabiners hooked on there, and these are so I can attach my Camelback hydration system on the outside of the pack. I don't have that sitting in here, but it's just your standard Camelback, and I clip it on the outside when I'm in hot weather so I can have something to drink off of. I find that's a little bit easier than trying to mess with canteens or water bottles or all this stuff. And when you drop your gear on the firing line, it's a whole lot easier to take that Camelback off, throw it on my back, and then have that drinking straw easy at hand as I'm walking around on the firing line and doing different things. It seems to me, especially in hot weather, if you leave your water supply in one area of the range, you won't be thinking about it, and then I know I'm pretty lazy and I'll forget to go over and actually take a drink and hydrate myself, and it'll just really increase your fatigue over the day of shooting. If it looks like I'm tired, it's because I am. It's been a long day so far, but I want to get this knocked out and get this up for you guys so that you have something come Monday morning. Now, I will start with the external gear on here. You see right here I've got a shooting mat strapped on. This is actually one of Triad Tactical's new padded shooting mats. We'll be doing a full review on this, but Steve was nice enough to send this out so that we could get a quick eyes on, and I've been using it for a couple of days this week so far, and it's an excellent piece of gear, very well made. It has what you need, and really nothing extra that you don't. It doesn't have pockets or extra molly loops or all kinds of crazy stuff that you don't really need on an actual shooting mat. One of the nice things it does have is it uses these ITW Waterbury buckles here. They're kind of like a hook type deal. They won't get brittle and break in cold weather. They won't break if you step on them. Really a nice added design, and these straps are removable and movable, so if you decide to roll it up longwise instead of short like this, you can reconfigure the straps to where you need them to be. A shooting mat is a really good idea when you're going out and you're shooting these competitions. You won't always be able to use it, but there will be times when you can use it, and you'll want to keep yourself off the cold ground in the winter. You want to keep yourself off the rocks and the thorns and all the nasty stuff in the summer if possible. So shooting mat is a great thing to have with you. Now, as we progress on the outside of the X3, you'll notice here the X3 comes equipped with a little bit of a molly belt. It allows you to add some extra pouches or extra deals. We have one of the ITW Fast Mags attached on here. You can check our other videos. We just did an overview of the Fast Mag. The system I was shooting today is an AR-10, so I do have an AR-10 magazine stuck in the Fast Mag system, which is really nice because it's right there, it's at hand. I don't have to go digging in the pack when I need an extra magazine. The type of match that we shot today was not really a run and gun. I don't need to reload on the fly, so I don't need to carry magazines on my body, but it's nice to have them on the pack so I can get to them. On the opposite side of the X3 here, I have a Triad Tactical 5-round AICS pouch, but inside this pouch is a USGI Lensatic compass. Just like a compass on the side of here, it's not needed for tactical match shooting, but when I go out into the backcountry to do some shooting or just out and about, I like to have a compass on me. It's just one of my quirks. Compasses are nice, they're unobtrusive. If you ever need a compass, you know, it's there. And if you don't know how to use a compass, that's a skill that I would highly suggest that you pick up. There's a little bit more to it than just flipping it open and seeing which direction north is. Now, the Eberlestock X3 pack, we're going to do a separate review on it, so don't flood me with questions on all the different features on it. I'm just going to go over a couple of things here. It has these two buckled straps on the top that hold your weapon inside the pack. The reason I like the Eberlestock X3, especially for the local matches, is it doesn't have an enormous amount of capacity inside. So I'm not going to try to stick the kitchen sink in this thing. I was using an Eagle A3 patrol pack for my range bag before, and I stuck way too much stuff in that thing. It's a 3-day patrol pack. You can get a lot of garbage in there that you really don't need. Some of the things that I sacrifice when I use this pack, I don't carry rain gear in it other than a poncho. I just keep rain gear in the vehicle that I drive to the range. If I need to get it out, I'll drag it out. If it's something like when we were down at the Kentucky Precision Rifle Challenge shoot, there are straps on the side, so if I need to, I can thread my rain gear through the side and strap it on the outside of the pack, because if it does start raining, the gear is not going to be on the pack for long. It's going to be on my body. Now, the Eberlestock X3 pack is about perfectly sized for an AR-10 weapon system. You saw when I had it in here with a 20-inch barrel, actually a 21-inch barrel on this rifle, it comes right to the end of the scope. Just the stock is protruding. Go ahead and pull the rifle out here. And we'll go over the setup on the rifle here in a minute, but you can see it's not a small rifle. It's a full-size system. Now, the Eberlestock X3 fits that rifle just fine. You only have a little bit of the stock protruding out the top. And it's really nice because when you're moving from firing point to firing point and changing stages, you can throw that rifle in the scabbard, throw the ruck on your back, and it really saves your arms from lugging the rifle around. That rifle is not incredibly heavy, but throughout the day it does start to weigh on you, and then in the next stage, if you have to do an offhand shoot or something like that, you really want to conserve whatever energy you can. Plus, conserving the energy is just gonna benefit you overall in reducing your overall fatigue. So this pack is great for that. You'll find that when you're trying to sling a rifle in addition to a backpack or any other bag, it just kind of gets cumbersome. The rifle wants to try to fall off your shoulder. It's bouncing off the backpack. It gets hooked up in things. It's just a pain. This is a little bit nicer. Although, you know, it's an expensive piece of gear, so it's not exactly mandatory, but it's nice to have. Let's talk about what is inside the pack. We'll go ahead and open up our top compartment here as soon as I find the zipper pulls. Now, the gear in this pack isn't organized in any special fashion. Just kind of the stuff that I access quickly on each firing point is up here in the top. The stuff that I don't access as frequently is down here in the bottom, because when I have the hydration system hooked up on here, it's easier to access the top pocket than it is the bottom pocket. Obviously, you'll set things up however it works best for you, but gear that's most needed needs to be either towards the outside or towards the top if you have a single compartment pack. One piece of gear that is really helpful when you're shooting a tactical match is some kind of bean bag or sand sock or something to support the rear of your rifle. Now, if you don't want to go out and purchase one of the bean bags, this is one made by us. Tab Gear makes one similar but has a strap across it. It's actually a little bit larger. Red Tack Gear makes some. You can actually go on triadtactical.com and find a ton of different bags. They're really a nice one-stop shop if you want to look at some of the different rear bags that are out there. If you're pressed for money, just go buy you a pair of GI wool socks. Fill you a bag, a Ziploc bag full of sand, throw it in a sock, tie that off, throw it in another sock, tie that off, and you've got a relatively inexpensive squeeze bag. If you want to go to Walmart, you can pick up some stuff called poly pellets. They're little plastic beads that are designed to go into Beanie Babies and other sewn goods. You can pick up a bag of those, pour those in your GI sock, and it'll be a little bit lighter weight, but it'll still give you some support. So that's a real cheap budget way to go about getting some rear support. It's not mandatory because you can still use the old grab the sling with your fist, but this just makes things a little bit more stable. It makes it so you can hold position a little bit longer, and it insulates your body from the stock of the rifle. A lot of times when you get that grip and you're gripping that sling, you can actually transmit muscle tremors and you can transmit your pulse a little bit easier into the buttstock of the rifle, and that'll contribute to that little bouncing crosshair you see when your heart's a-thumping. So rear support is a nice thing to have. In here, I've got a Bushnell Elite Tactical 1600 rangefinder. This is a great little rangefinder. It's not going to break the bank. The matches that we shoot here generally are known distance matches. You're given the distance to each one of the plates before the stage starts. So rangefinders are not mandatory. However, somebody has to actually verify the range to the target. So I like to bring mine so we can range them before the match and actually give correct distances. It's a whole lot more fun if you know the data that you're getting is correct versus doing a couple of misses because you were 15, 20 yards off on the distance. So a rangefinder is a nice thing to have. Again, not mandatory. They are expensive. You can get away with MilDOT range estimation if you know how to do it and you're given the distance to the targets. Box of ammo today. I was shooting some Black Hills 175 grain match ammo. This I just recently started carrying. This is a cat tourniquet. Now, there are a lot of guys that don't carry first aid gear out to the field or out to shooting sports. There are a lot of guys that do carry first aid kits, but you'll find a lot of the first aid kits that you see at Walmart or any of your sporting goods stores, there are Band-Aids and Neosporin and stuff like that. We shoot high power rifles. There is absolutely nothing that those rifles can do to you that a Band-Aid can fix. If it's small enough that a Band-Aid will solve it, then it's small enough it's going to stop bleeding on its own. Throw some duct tape on it and drive on. If it's something like a bullet hole through an extremity, there is nothing one of those first aid kits is going to do for you. This could be the difference between life or death. These things are about $30 from North American Rescue. Take some time to learn how to use one. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be an EMT to use a tourniquet. They're learning on the battlefield that getting these things on quickly will save your life. It used to be when I went through combat lifesaver training that tourniquets were the absolute last resort. They told you only put a tourniquet on if you were willing to accept the fact the patient was going to lose a limb. That is not the fact nowadays. They are coming off the battlefield with tourniquets on for hours and still able to save the limb. So this is an extremely nice piece of gear. Like I said, $30. It may save somebody's life. It may save your life. It's a nice thing to have in your gear. You don't want to think about it. You never want to think about what's going to happen if somebody takes a bullet on the firing line. But the reality of the situation is negligent discharges happen. You want to be prepared to deal with it if it does. So, cat tourniquet, They're about 30 bucks from North American Rescue. Couple of extra magazines. If you are shooting a magazine-fed rifle and you expect that you'll need 2 magazines for the stages of fire that you're going to cover, bring 3. Today, while we were shooting, I actually had some magazine-induced failures. Once I identified the problem, it was easy to mark the magazine, toss it off to the side, grab another spare magazine, and then drive on, and no more failures. Had I not had a spare magazine, then I would have had to fight that magazine for the rest of the course of fire, and probably would have come in a whole lot worse than I did. Miscellaneous cleaning gear. Just got a rag, bore snake, some oil, and some grease. Very simple, nothing in depth. Just enough that if the rifle gets dumped in the mud or kicked over or gets rained on, we can fix things really quick. We'll leave the in-depth cleaning for when we get back here. It's just a bore snake for a different caliber. Since I often run 243 and also 308, then I carry 2 different size bore snakes. This is our data book. This is a critical piece of information. Now, this is one of the covers that we make, and inside of it is an impact modular data book. I'll usually go with the pre-made data books and then replace the pages as I need them. Also, I like to carry some just regular white sheets of paper. That way I can scribble down notes, rough field sketches, that kind of stuff, and it's just free form. I don't have any boxes that I have to fill in. Sometimes this is a whole lot quicker than filling out pages in here. However, it's a good idea to backfill the pages with the data that you write down on the scratch paper. That way you have an organized method of recovering the data later if you want to go back and look at something. So scratch paper to get stuff down and dirty, and nice pages to log it in so you can reference it later. The scratch paper is really key when you have an RO that's going to read out ranges and do it really, really quick. At the Kentucky Precision Rifle Challenge, it was raining, so I had scratch paper inside of a Ziploc bag, and as they would read out the stages, I'd scribble them down on scratch paper. That way I don't have to worry about getting the whole data book nasty. Now, if you do frequently find yourself shooting in rainy environments, impact data books makes a data book with Write in the Rain paper. They're a little bit more expensive than the regular paper, but if you're going to find yourself in wet environments, that may be a good investment to save yourself from damage to your data book. It is really nice to be able just to flip back through this information and see what you shot previously. It can help you diagnose problems. It can prevent problems in the future. So that's our data book. Good old USGI poncho. Never leave home without it. If it starts pouring down, it's nice to be able to break the poncho out to cover up your gear, cover up your rifle, or cover up yourself if need be, if you forgot rain gear. Knee and elbow pads. These are actually elbow pads. I generally don't run knee pads because, you know, my knee's been torn up pretty bad from crawling over the years. Lots of nice scar tissue there. However, knee pads may save you from getting a core sample taken out of your kneecap from a spent shell casing that you didn't see laying on the ground. So if you go to matches where there's going to be a lot of flopping on the ground or a lot of crawling around, knee and elbow pads may be a good idea. I like to carry the elbow pads because frequently we'll shoot off of vehicles, and a dark colored vehicle baking in the southern Indiana sun is not a fun thing to lay your lily white skin against when you need to. You may hear a little hissing, smell a little bacon cooking, and that's not breakfast. So elbow pads, nice thing to have. Depending on the kind of courses of fire you shoot, you may want to wear long sleeve shirts. Long sleeves just keep that sun from baking your arms and give you a little bit of protection if you're going to lay against something hot like the hood of a car. I believe that's all we've got up here. My little inside pocket here has just got odds and ends. Got a battery for my scope illumination, Right in the Rain notebook. I've got the audio cable for my ears, so I can plug my iPhone into my ears if I need to. And some just little pieces of hardware here and there. I'll come down here into the main pocket. One of the nice things on the X3 I'll mention, when you open this flap, there's MOLLE on the inside of the flap as well as the outside. So you can actually do pouches and have them inside when the pack is zipped up, but unzip this and flip it open and have whatever you need quickly accessible. I thought that was a really nice feature. One of the things that I do is I take one of the MOLLE loops and I dummy cord my Kestrel right in there. And even when I've got my hydration system on here, it's easy for me just to grab one of the poles, open the side, and pull the Kestrel out and be able to use it. Now it's dummy corded in here, but due to the lanyard on the Kestrel and the way it's designed, it's really easy to take off if I need to take it off and go take a wind reading somewhere else, because it can be kind of a pain having that tethered on the pack and only having that much distance. You may not get a true wind reading. I like to be able to stand up and take it from head high when I'm standing. Wind, as it blows across the ground, as you can tell, I'm tired. I'm having trouble speaking. Wind as it blows across the ground will slow down just from friction with the ground. So if you take a wind reading right down on the ground, it may not give you a true idea versus when you stand up, or even if you raise your arm up and take a wind reading from overhead. So it's good to be able to quickly release it. However, this is a key piece of gear. Since it's a key piece of gear, it needs to be solidly attached to the pack. That way you don't leave a zipper open, it falls out, it's gone, and then you're shooting the rest of a competition with no wind reading, no temperature, no barometric pressure. That's a bad thing. You may have friends in your group that will let you know what's going on, but then again, you don't want to have to rely on that. So a Kestrel, this is one of the lower end models. This is actually a 2500 NV. The only thing I use it for is temperature, pressure, and wind speed. And the wind speed only kinda. I tend to use environmental effects that I can observe downrange more than just relying on the wind meter at the point I'm firing at. So I like to take the total picture into account when I'm making my wind calls. It is nice to have one of the higher end Kestrels that give you density altitude, but it is not strictly required if you're trying to get into this cheap. I've had this Kestrel for some time now, and since I use a ballistic program on my iPhone, being able to plug the barometric pressure, the temperature into the iPhone program, it gives me a pretty good idea. I don't need to convert to density altitude first. However, if I got a Kestrel with DA on it, then I can set my iPhone program to accept DA and only have to put in one variable instead of several. One tip on these: when you're using these, set the altitude to 0. You want your reference altitude to 0 because you want the barometric pressure to actually read the station pressure of where you're standing at. That will give you a better idea of what's going on. Boonie hat. If it starts raining, I really prefer boonie hats. I'll take the electronic ears off, I'll stuff them in the bag, I'll go back to regular foam earplugs or Surefire earplugs, and wear my boonie hat helps keep the rain from running off my back and down my back instead of down the back of the rain gear. The brim helps keep water off the ocular lens of the scope. So boonie hats are really nice to have if it starts raining. Got an Otis cleaning kit here. This is kind of redundant with the other cleaning gear, but it's better at clearing bore obstructions than a bore snake. Bore snake's almost useless for trying to clear a bore obstruction. The metal cable on the Otis is a little bit more rigid when you get it jammed down the barrel, and it is possible to tap out a round that's just engraved itself on the lead instead of having to worry about a regular solid rod. Solid rod's better, but you may be able to get loose with the cable. So I kind of keep that in there. I'm a pack rat. I tend to throw extra stuff in. So again, hence the reason for the smaller size pack. Otherwise, I'll try to fill it up. Gloves. These are just mechanics gloves. Nothing high speed. We don't need any carbon fiber knuckles. We're not doing door kicker stuff here. We just need something that's going to protect our hands from getting pinched in barricades and give a little bit of protection against heat, again, hot auto bodies or splinters that come off of barricades. So gloves are a nice thing to have. I don't always shoot with gloves on, but I like to have them if I run into a situation where I deem them necessary. You will notice this is my right glove here. This is my index finger. There's a full index finger there. We're not doing any cool guy stuff where we cut the index finger off, so we got a bare index finger. And I'll tell you why. This is really, really important. If I take a bunch of splinters through the pad of my finger, it's going to be a whole lot harder to feel that trigger than it is with one tiny layer of material between my finger and the trigger. These gloves have a synthetic leather covering them. There's no squishiness to it. It's not like a big ski glove, so it really doesn't affect the feel of your trigger at all. Don't cut the index fingers out of your safety gloves. They're there to protect your hand, and if you got an index finger sticking out, your most important finger for engaging the trigger, it's not being protected. So it's almost no reason to wear the gloves. I mean, you can get splinters in the palms of your hand and still have perfect feel to pull the trigger. So don't cut the index fingers out of your gloves. It may look cool, it doesn't help you any. Oh, love the next one. The Shemag. Don't wear this thing. Don't wrap it around your head and act like you're some Taliban soldier or something. The reason I have one is it's a really quick drying towel to be able to wipe stuff off. It's good to wrap around your neck if you've already scorched the back of your neck, and it's good to mop sweat off your brow. Don't try to wear it like a turban. It just looks really goofy as hell. Get yourself a good hat. Electronic ears. These are the Peltor Tac Sport or Sport Tac. For some reason, Peltor's listed them both ways. These are a really good middle-of-the-range set of ears. They run around $100. They obviously run on batteries. They amplify the noises that you want to hear, and they cut out the noises that you don't. They're a very fast response, so you don't get the nasty clipping. I can actually carry on a conversation with somebody with gunfire in the background, and it will attenuate the gunfire, but still allow me to hear the person's voice that's speaking. It has an audio port on the bottom, so you can input other devices, Walkman, walkie-talkies, cell phone, etc. The drawback is you have to use a Peltor specific cable, and the cable isn't cheap. I wear these at work. I got the cable initially so I could input my work radio into my ears, and on entries I could hear the radio perfectly clearly and hear my teammates just fine. They're great. I try not to get them really wet because they are not waterproof, so when it starts raining I'll switch to alternate ear pro. I've used them in light rain before and they've done just fine, but I wouldn't want to get them soaking wet. Sunblock. If I'm going to be out for quite some time, then I'm putting sunscreen on my exposed skin. Skin cancer ain't fun. Bug spray. You'll notice that my bug spray is in this nice sandwich bag. This is some evil stuff. This is 100% DEET. I found that it works really well. Drawback is it likes to melt plastic. So try to keep it off your gear. You don't want your nylon pack getting saturated with it. It actually, where's the Kestrel at? It actually ate a chunk out of the side of the Kestrel case. It's pretty ugly. It's taken it probably about a year now, and it's finally worked its way back out of the Kestrel case, so it doesn't feel like modeling clay anymore. It's actually hardened back up, but it will really eat up plastic. So don't let your bug spray come in contact with your plastic gear. Make sure you bag it up. A little bit of more first aid stuff. This is down in the bottom because this is non-critical stuff. I've got an Israeli bandage in here, some medical tape, cravat. The Israeli bandage is really nice to have. It's fairly small, self-contained. What I would suggest is for a regular going to the range kit, get your cat tourniquet, get you an Israeli bandage, throw them in a Ziploc bag, keep them in the top of your pack. Those two will solve 90% of the stuff that you're going to encounter that would be life-threatening. We're not going to worry about cuts. I don't worry about staples through the finger, that kind of stuff. Throw some duct tape on it, drive on. There's really no reason to carry Band-Aids and Neosporin. You can clean that stuff up and fix it when you get home. We'll set that aside. Toilet paper. And what do we have on the back here? Antibacterial wipes. Toilet paper is a great thing to have. I shoot at a bunch of different ranges. You never know if there's going to be TP in the bathrooms or in the porta potties or not. So it's always good to carry your own. And lastly, fruit snacks. Got to have something to munch on. And that is the sole, well, that is the complete contents of my range bag. Some of it's overkill, some of it's more expensive than you need, but it's stuff that I've found that I use somewhat regularly, or I get a warm and fuzzy by just knowing that it's back there. Let me pack this stuff up, we'll reset, and we'll talk about the rifle. Okay, the rifle that I took with me today is an Armalite AR-10. This is my own custom build. It's got a Noveske 21-inch barrel on it. It's chambered in .308. It's running a Armalite tactical 2-stage trigger, Magpul PRS buttstock, a Pry gas buster charging handle, Badger Ordnance stabilizer fore-end, a Harris BRM 6-9 bipod, my own design sling, has a LaRue quick release mount on it, and a US Optics SN3 3.2 to 17 power scope. It's got the Ergo objective, the EREC elevation housing, and that's about it. This rifle is a fairly good, fast gas gunning rifle. It is not a razor's edge precision rifle. It hovers somewhere around 3/4 to 1 minute angle, and that's an honest evaluation of its accuracy. That's not, ooh, I've got a half-minute rifle, or I've got a quarter-minute rifle all day if I do my part. I can take this thing out and I can bang steel that's 1 MOA, and if I'm not hitting it, then it's probably me and it's probably not the rifle. Shot it today, had some issues with a magazine, bad magazine, causing double feeds. You know, it is what it is. It's a magazine-fed weapon. It has more potential for screw-ups than a bolt-action rifle, but I hadn't gotten it out and shot it in a while, so I wanted to run it. In a lot of tactical rifle matches, depending upon how the match is set up, you may be at an advantage or you may be at a disadvantage running a gas gun. The match today was set up in a manner that it was about a wash when it was all said and done. Most of the stages were timed, and usually timed stages with rapid multiple target engagement favors a gas gun. It's those paper dot drills where you're shooting tiny, tiny dots where it will favor a bolt action rifle with that razor's edge accuracy. Now, there are gas guns out there that have that razor's edge accuracy. This is not one of them. Now, where the time was really made up, or where the field was evened out, was some of the moving stages require you to clear the rifle before you move forward. Now, clearing a bolt gun is extremely fast, and a lot of times they'll allow you just to run the bolt back and keep the bolt to the rear, because obviously a bolt gun cannot fire with the bolt to the rear. With the gas gun, you had to drop the magazine, clear the chamber, and then go. There's really no convenient way to prevent a gas gun from cycling that next round in. Sure, you could float your hand back here on the mag well and depress the bolt lock as you fire that last round, but that's really, really not going to give you your best accuracy when you're shooting. The benefit is several of the stages today were shooting off of barricades or shooting from odd positions where you would have to take one of your support hands off the rifle to cycle the action. The semi-automatic, obviously, I just press the trigger, reset the trigger, press the trigger again. There's no having to move my position to cycle the bolt. So when deciding between a gas gun and a bolt gun, you really need to know what kind of stages you're going to encounter, or just be prepared to roll with the punches. Now, one of the reasons that I haven't been taking gas guns to the matches a whole lot is because very frequently, if we're doing a run and gun type stage where we have to shoot at one position, move to another position, shoot, move to another position and shoot, we're shooting in not the most highly groomed grass. And I really like to recover my brass. I'm kind of anal that way, and this thing throws brass quite a distance. So you got to bear that in mind. We were running a $3 Brass-SAVR, which I've got right down here. We were running a $3 Brass-SAVR on this rifle today. We'll be doing a full review on it, but it worked great. It allowed me to recover all my brass, and it was quick on and off the rifle. So if I needed to clear the rifle, then I could yank the Brass-SAVR off the side, make sure I clear it, put it back on, and drive on. So we'll be doing a full review on that. But that's the specifics on the rifle, and the only reason I'm covering the rifle is you guys saw me take it out of the pack. I knew you were going to ask me about it. That's the rifle in a nutshell. Well, this probably wasn't the Mail Call Monday that you guys were expecting, but it is what it is. We were short on time. So we're getting this out to you, and hopefully it'll give you something to watch on Monday. Now, if you like this video, make sure you click that thumbs up button. If you want to comment, leave a comment in the comments section below or on Facebook or Twitter. If you're a subscriber, thank you. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Click that little button up there. It doesn't cost you anything, and we won't send you junk mail. YouTube will let you know when we release new videos, so you guys get to watch them right away. Until next time, get out and shoot!